case you haven't figured this out, I absolutely love doing these. I love spending some time with you talking about the ideas that come up, the conversations I had to share with you to get better and to help me get better at understanding what I'm talking about and expressing it. The greatest problem I have, literally the greatest problem I have with all of this is the curse of knowledge. And that's an interesting problem that we all struggle with. It's not that we don't have the knowledge. It is that we have the curse of knowledge and we have either forgotten or are so interested in what we're doing now that we don't remember how difficult it was to begin. Many times I will find experts who are absolutely the best in their field and want to talk about this minutia that is the far end, the cutting end of what's going on. I'd love to sit down and talk to you about what I'm doing with fonts right now in testimonials and how we're seeing 0.5% or a percentage differential just in the way we change the fonts in the testimonials that we have and the testimonials will do and how those testimonials are being set up and done. But that probably wouldn't serve the most people. What will serve the most people is to talk about the fundamentals, and one of them is not to talk about the complexity. It is to go back and look at where you were in the beginning and help with that stage. If you could help get them to the first stage, help them understand what's going on, help them make sure that they're in a place that they can at least start to experiment and get it out, that would be great. I was sitting down with an individual and I was talking about this font issue that I was having, and they started taking notes badly and wanted to immediately sit down and start changing their fonts. And I'm like, should I do that? I'm like, no, don't do that. In fact, give me that page. I want you just to get something out, because they were creating such complexity in the system that they thought this would be the next best thing to do. And in all reality, what they needed to do is go back and record 100 videos, because that will get them much farther along than any kind of little trick or tip. It is the constant use thereof. In many ways, we talk about the ability to get things done and what we should be doing next, but we probably do it in too much of a complexity. And we need to step back and help the people who are not where we are, not fascinated with this stuff, to get better at what we're doing. Stop being brilliant and start being basic. Your market is begging for it. While you're crafting sophisticated solutions and advanced strategies, your customers are desperately searching for someone who can explain the fundamentals in plain language. How many people have you known are overwhelmed with your expertise? Companies that prioritize teaching basics over showcasing expertise have 4 times higher conversion rates. Your brilliance is becoming a barrier between you and your customers' needs. Every complex concept you're sharing is pushing away someone who just needs the simple truth. In many ways, we have a tendency to forget all of that stuff. And if you really want to get down into this, then I would suggest you start looking at your unconscious competencies. This was a great exercise for me. In other words, there are so many things that you're used to doing that are done unconsciously now. You don't even think about it. And start making a list of all your unconscious competencies, the things that you're really good at that you don't even think are important anymore. That is a treasure trove of information that your customers could really use right now. Now, I get into photography and I absolutely love to do photography because it takes me out of everything else I do. And a perfect example of that is that there's the exposure triangle, where you deal with the amount of light that's coming through the lens, you deal with the amount of time the frame is exposed, and you deal with the sensitivity of that frame. And this is a very simple way of talking about a camera. Most people don't even worry about that now because they have a digital camera, which is their phone. And so having people start with a conversation about that triangle and those 3 and how they interact is something you start with. Most photographers don't think about it anymore because it's so fast to go, oh, this is X, Y, and Z, this is where it should be. And you get proficient in that relatively quickly and you forget about it. They are unconsciously competent about the exposure triangle. And therefore, you need to go back and look at where you are unconsciously competent. Stop teaching the advanced stuff and start with the really little stuff. Start with the very basic stuff. And the very basic stuff should be out in your free content. Very basic stuff should be absolutely out there so everyone can get to a level. Now, we talked about this before, and I love talking about the ability to see how we move customers through a number of levels, a customer escalation. And so that you start with the very basic stuff to help them understand exactly what they're doing wrong. And if you follow this channel on a regular basis, you're going to see that I talk about all the things that I see most people doing. And one of which is the curse of knowledge. One of which is talking and saying things, talking about the advanced techniques, because they're sexy, they're fun, they will give you the little points, but most people don't need the advanced techniques from the beginning. They need the very beginning techniques. Because if you don't have a good foundation, if you don't know how to turn the camera on, however good you are on video does not matter. And in fact, learning how to turn the camera on and make sure you look good and you're focused, those are kind of good techniques. And if you've got a tip or a trick around, that becomes one of the value. One of the most valuable things I did with one of the courses I taught was to teach someone how to do a video shoot by themselves. And it was an interesting process for me because I had to think through, how do you get a focus? How do you not have a team and things like that? Because it's been years. But I had an unconscious competency to that, where we had a number of things that I was able to teach them. One of which is you get a dummy and you literally put a dummy where you are so you can make sure the lighting and make sure it's focused. The aha moment that came with so many people was so helpful, because that's the stumbling block that does not let them go forward. So if you're teaching the advanced stuff, that's great. Let that be part of something else. In the beginning, teach them the simple things. Teach them the stuff that is practically unconscious for you. And if you're having trouble accessing your unconscious parts of that, listen to what people are asking. Ask them where they're stumbling, where they're having problems. The minute you think, boy, that's simple, that's something you need to teach. So every time you're now having conversations with people, think, if it's, boy, that's simple, you need to teach it. If you're thinking, boy, do I have to explain that again? You need to make a video on it. All of those are the value, are the real goal that you have. And you'd be astounded at how many people are dying to have that information. You are not going to be able to entice people if they can't get past turning the camera on, if they can't get past that first step, which you're completely competent with. You don't do it, you don't even think about it anymore. I can't tell you how many people are terrified of starting a website. And most of the time, I just send them a template I created. I'm like, fill this out, and we'll figure it out from there. So be careful. Delve into your unconscious competencies and make content around the unconscious competencies. Save the more nuanced work for people who have done it. It will make more sense. Once people have done part of it, it will make more sense for them to do the next step. So what I'd love you to do is, first of all, open up your ears. When you're talking to people, and the minute you say, boy, that's easy, or that's simple, or why am I saying that again? There's the unconscious competencies coming up. You need to start creating content and value around that. And second of all, make that list and keep it coming, because it's astounding when you start thinking about it, how many unconscious you have. So keep that list. In fact, I've got a list of over 100 unconscious competencies that I want to talk to you about. So buckle in, there's a lot coming. And thirdly, what you want to do is you want to start talking to people about where they have problems, what the thing is that stops them. Because the other secret is, if you're teaching something, but you can also provide that service at the same time, you gain a double advantage. So, if someone's having trouble videotaping and having trouble getting a set together and things like that, well, we figured that out as an issue, and now we provide that as a service. And people fly in from all over the world into Philadelphia, and we shoot a dual camera 4K event where they get makeup and everything else that they need, and they walk away with a month's or a quarter's worth of content in just a few days. It's focused, it's concise, and it's powerful. So not only looking at our conscious competencies, but allowing that to happen expanded that field tremendously. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about those unconscious competencies and Write one of your best unconscious competencies in the comments. Let's start sharing it. Let's start a network so people can ask questions and start learning, and you can start learning as well. Let's continue the conversation there. I look forward to talking to you.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode on the Strategy Session, where we take your business from stuck to unstoppable. Here's another video I think you'd enjoy. If you found these insights valuable, remember to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell for notifications on our latest videos. Remember, you're not just marketing, you're making history with Venture Gained.